You're listening to episode 200. Katie answers anonymous questions from Instagram, a personal story with a burn, and final reflections of 2023. Hello, my friends. Welcome to Child Life on Call. This podcast is a safe place for parents to share their stories about what it's like to have a child that has a medical experience, diagnosis, disease, and or everything in between. We know there's power in sharing stories, and that power multiplies when you can listen to other parents who have walked a similar path to yours. Giving and getting advice is great, but hearing how another parent navigates the complexities and nuances of healthcare is even better. As a child life specialist, my role is to support, validate, and provide emotionally safe spaces for kids and their families, and I am so honored to be on this journey with you. In addition to parent stories, we sprinkle in some expert episodes every now and again that have content for both parents and professionals in the field of healthcare, all with the mission to empower parents to be confident advocates and partners with the care team during healthcare experiences. We're so glad you're here. Hello, my friends. I am so happy to be with you. It is crazy to me that we are approaching the end of the year. Episode 200 is just a really exciting moment for Child Life on Call. And in just reflection of what we have been through since 2017 together is insane. In 2017, I was a child life specialist. I was a mom. I was pregnant with my second daughter and, kind of got curious about filling gaps. And I talk about that a lot. And I hope that if you take anything away from today's episode, it's that you don't have to be perfect in order to get started on something new. I certainly was not. I had no idea what I was doing when I started this podcast. And is this the most wildly successful podcast ranking in the top 10 every week? Not even close, y'all. Not even close. But this is a space where I get to talk directly to you. I get to interview incredible parents who have so much courage each and every day to talk about some of the hardest parts of what they've been through so that other parents feel less alone, and community members and child life specialists and other healthcare professionals get to hear what the parent experience is like in healthcare. And I could not be more grateful. So I thought in this final episode of 2023, episode 200, we would go through a kind of like a little bit of a different episode. So on Instagram, I wrote if anybody had questions for me to answer, that I would tackle those. And we got some really good ones in this year. There's just about 4 or 5 of those. I'm going to do a little bit of personal reflection on some of the moments of the podcast over the past year that have changed me, changed who I am as a person, changed how I want to move forward with Child Life on Call. And then I also want to talk about a personal experience I had a few weeks ago where Cameron, my daughter, was burned. And I know a lot of you have been asking, and she's doing incredible. And I almost don't even feel like it's a worthy experience. No, that's not true. That's not true, because what we went through was really hard and we're still processing it, and she's doing really well, but that doesn't mean that it's not worth sharing. And yeah, so I'm just so glad you're here. Okay, so let's get started with some of the fun stuff. One of the questions I got, what are the books that I have read in the past year? I started the year off super strong. And when I want to tell you, full disclosure, when I say read, it is a combination of both reading books, reading on my Kindle, and then listening on audiobooks. And it kind of ebbs and flows in which one I do the most. And this was a pretty good mix this year. I started the year off strong with Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. And if you haven't read that before, it's like one of those good feeling, warm books. And it's not too stressful. It makes you feel good about the world. It makes you see things in different ways. Like half of the book, if not more than that, is narrated by an octopus. And I listened to the audiobook. And so getting to hear the voice of an octopus was really, really cool. I loved that book. Highly recommend. I do a combination of nonfiction and fiction, but I would say in a close second this year was The Woman in Me by Britney Spears, y'all. I I pride myself on tending to be like really open and not judgmental about people. But growing up, I was judgmental about Britney Spears. I had the SLUT narrative in my head that that's kind of what she was. And I went to go see her in Vegas in like 2008. And if any of you are dancers, then you know what it means when somebody's just marking it. And for those of you who are not dancers, marking it means like you're not doing it full out. You're maybe going through the motions, but if your arm is like going all the way to the side and you're supposed to like hit it, you just kind of put it out there, or you just even do a half arm. And when I was watching her show in Vegas, I enjoyed every single moment. But to me, she was marking the whole thing. And then actually listening to her book, and by the way, Michelle Williams and her narration of it was just incredible. But that was so thoughtful by Britney Spears. So she is a smart cookie. She is incredibly self-aware about what she has been through and where she is now. Anyway, I could talk about Britney's book forever, but it was really good. I would say another top book for me was a book that was called The Song of Achilles. And it was a really long book, and it's kind of mythical. It talks about both humans living amongst the Greek gods in the Roman times. And it's a love story, and also about like humanity, and a coming of age story. Is really beautiful. I also read The Secret Keeper of Jaipur, which is the second in a series of by Alka Joshi. Very good. My favorite thriller was When You Find Me, and PJ Vernon wrote that one. And then I always throw in self-help there. And I both read and listened to this one because I wanted it to stick. And it's called Bending Reality by Victoria Song. I highly recommend that if you're kind of in this phase of you need to get past imposter syndrome. And that is something I am always, always working on. So I really like that. I did feel like I reaped the benefits of that one because I both read and listened to it. And I tried to do that at the same time so that I'm, absorbing the words and the goodness that she's putting inside of me. Okay. Question number 2 from Instagram. What was my best toy of 2023? And I have 2. I will start off and tell you that my favorite personal toy for my family that is also incredible as a hospital resource in the playroom or in a patient's room is the Smart Sketcher 2.0. And it is incredible. I will link it in the show notes. But it is basically a projector that does have to be plugged in. So you will need an extension cord if you're in a hospital. So go ahead and put a ticket in for that. Get an extension cord from the IT team. But it teaches kids how to trace, but it's more than just tracing. So you can trace, it actually takes you step by step. So you're starting in really small things. So you start with a circle and then you build on. There's a few YouTube videos that my kids like doing too, but the Smart Sketcher is truly incredible, and it will break down any photo. So you could take a picture of your dog, a picture of your family. My husband makes Cameron do the longhorn, the hook'em. And then she did a Nittany lion, and it was really fun. So it's actually a fun idea for like gifts or something. So if somebody you loves a certain team, you can upload, there's an app that goes with it. You can upload that picture. So that is a pricey toy. I think it's around $100. My second favorite toy, I feel like I have inside scoop about this, is a Melissa and Doug toy that is only in Walmart right now, but I think that's going to change at the beginning of 2024. And it's called the Melissa and Doug Sticker Wow. And it basically is a sticker stamper. So instead of having to like take a sticker off of a sheet, you can actually just take a stamper and it sticks to the page and the sticker comes off. So no backing. I think it's a great toy for kids with all abilities because you don't need those fine motor skills to actually take the back of the sticker off. So yes, I cannot wait for that to be available at all places beyond Walmart, but very cool sticker. The other question I got was the most challenging part of last year. And I think I alluded to this a little bit, but just the imposter syndrome that wakes me up at 2 a.m. that tells me I am not qualified to do this, to run a business, to be at the table, to be creating, an app and selling it to children's hospitals. Like, who am I? I'm just a child life specialist and with no background in technology. And so that is the hardest part. I know those are not helpful thoughts, but they are the reality of what is the hardest thing for me to navigate. Because when those thoughts are not there, I am full steam ahead. I'm showing up at the table. I am learning new things. I am cracking the code on things I thought I never would. I am confident at tables with people I've never met before. And so I think it's just challenging to balance those for me personally. But I will say Victoria Song's book did help, and continually for me going back to self-help books or whatever you want to call it, listening to podcasts, especially the Mel Robbins podcast. Highly recommend if you don't already listen to that one. The most rewarding part for me is, I would say, Tuesday team meetings with Child Life on Call. I have a lot of most rewarding parts, but we have Annie, who is a virtual child life specialist who works with a nonprofit called Hope for HIE to deliver child life services and programming to their members, which is so cool. And Annie joins our meetings and she tells us what she's doing. We have Lindsay, who is, the backbone of Child Life on Call, and what a insane year they have had for her family. And it's not my place to share, but goodness gracious, the ups and the downs. And all along, Lindsay is a constant positive resource here for us. Lauren, who helps with our student programming, the Child Life Circle, started a clinical supervision program, which is completely free for Child Life Circle members. It's insane what we have learned from clinical supervision that is not done in the hospital setting. So for me, in my experience with clinical supervision, sometimes it's hard to be your authentic self when you're in a room with your colleagues and your peers. And perhaps the person who is leading clinical supervision may or may not be someone that you look up to, or may not be someone that you value their opinion. It's kind of out of your control. But here in the Child Life Circle, we have found the best clinical supervisors who come unbiased, are not going to judge you or give you a performance review, and have so much experience in how to lead clinical supervision that it's been profound. And so we're doing research there, which is amazing. And I would also say the most rewarding part has been traveling the country and going everywhere from Seattle to Chicago and Dallas. And it feels like a lot of different places to meet with child life teams and see what it's really like for them and what their challenges are, and how Child Life on Call can be a support to them, how we can really align their goals with their specific program and with our capabilities to support their team grow and become more valuable in their institution. And then we all know, like, the trickle-down effect, that how that helps patients and parents and families. So that for me has been really rewarding. The last question that I want to tackle was a real doozy. This one was, do you find it hard to dissociate your feelings with your own kids while working in the hospital, especially kids with the same ages? So this is a loaded question. I don't know that I'm going to answer it in the right way. There would be times where I was working in the hospital that I would be so in it with families that I really wouldn't think about my own kids until it was like time to leave, or I would have a moment on the elevator. And I think that is okay, at least for me in my practice. When I first started Child Life, I had this incredible woman. Her name is Sarah Pajak, and she is a child life specialist, leader. She's also in nursing school. I think she works for a foundation now. And she told me that you have to give 100% to every family that you work with, because the next family doesn't deserve 90% of you. And in order to do that, you have to be really thoughtful on the balance of work and home. And so for me, when I am with a family, they're my priority. And that doesn't mean that I don't love my kids or that I don't think about them or carry them with me wherever I go. But it does mean that I'm fully present with a family. I think for me, what gets to be the hardest, I've talked a lot about how I've been to therapy and how I'm on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. When I'm working with patients that are my kids' same ages, it is really easy when I'm done working with the family for that to become embedded inside of me. Not exactly when I'm with the family, but when I walk away or I have a break. And there have been certain circumstances where it is like a mirror image of my family. Truly the same age kiddos, a girl and a boy, doing an incredibly similar thing on the same weekend that we did it. I'm thinking of one exactly that was a drowning a couple of years ago, and it could have been my family. And that is difficult for so many reasons. And mostly the pain of what I imagine or see the family going through. That pain is pain that is indescribable and unfair. And often I leave feeling, why do I get to be the one to go to work and then come home and kiss my kids? Life doesn't make sense to me a lot in those moments. And so that's kind of my answer to that very, very good, thoughtful, hard question. In reflection of 2023 and the parents and the experts and the child life specialists that we have had on this podcast, 3 themes have stood out to us. One is advocacy. It's a theme that we hear all over the place throughout the podcast. How to advocate for yourself, how to advocate for your child, how child life specialists can encourage parents to advocate, how child life specialists themselves advocate for our role. The second theme has been community, and there is not an episode that has gone by from a parent that hasn't talked about how important other people have been in their ability to cope or move through their experiences. And lastly, empowerment is that theme. And how do we empower ourselves? How do we empower others? And so because of those, I'm going to pull out just a few quotes from the past year that have really stood out to us in terms of that advocacy, empowerment. And so I'm just going to pull a few of the quotes from the past year that have to do with advocacy, empowerment, and community that have really stood out to us. I'm going to start with featuring Riley's story, and Riley is actually a child life specialist on the East Coast, but she has also been a patient with a cardiac defect called tetralogy of Fallot. And she so much talks about how to empower kids before, during, and after their cardiac surgeries. And I think what's incredible is that she herself has been through it before. So here's just a little tidbit from.
I think the best parts of my job is when I get to tell someone, oh, yeah, I have tetralogy too. Or, oh, yeah, I have an open heart scar too. And the look on their faces is just like, what? Like the parents just look so like they're in shock, but they're happy in shock because they're like, you're a whole adult person. And I've never met anyone that has this or that also has had open heart. And you're standing in front of me. And that just shows me that we can get there too.
Yeah.
But when the kids hear it or see it, I love when they're like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Me too. And they show me their scar. Or if it's like an older friend, I can just kind of see like a look of confidence, or maybe just like the little smile on their face shows me that maybe they don't feel as isolated as they did before.
And when it comes to being empowered, we'll share a little bit from Ryan's story.
So I could be the best caregiver to my sons, but being the nurturer isn't something that we are naturally instilled with. And so now having to be this caregiver and parent, and there's a very hard difference between being a parent and being a caregiver, to then running the house, to being okay with not being in those big meetings and lunches and presentations and things like that, to going to the library, going to the park where you're the only dad around.
And from Jennifer's story, a son with necrotizing enterocolitis in the NICU.
I wouldn't say it's not the right you like, no one should feel ashamed for having a baby in the NICU, but it's pretty much unavoidable, I think, for
Right.
most parents. Like, it's just natural for us to feel like we did something wrong, and so I would often, like, write about things that I knew no one would wanna hear me say, and so
Yeah.
I would write things down that I heard other people in the NICU, like, say and questions I did. I definitely, like, wrote a lot. But I think, what allowed me to kind of process and get through is focusing on what I could do in that
Okay.
moment, which oftentimes was very little. Like, I've often felt like I could do nothing, like I
Yeah.
was powerless. And so I would just try to find the things that I could do and hold on to those, whether it was read to Micah, like sitting at his bedside and just reading to him, singing to
Yeah.
him, pumping milk.
And from Jan's story, a daughter with PVOD.
First of all, PVOD is so rare. I just think maybe having more awareness of the disease. Even after her transplant, she had said to me, well, maybe now the doctors can study my lungs so other kids won't get this to help other kids. She makes me cry so much with some of the
Wow.
stuff she says. Yeah.
She's so wise.
But also because I feel like this is partly healing for me too, being able to tell our story, what we've been through. I know, like, on my Instagram, I'll make, like, little videos, a lot of just some of the hospital stuff that we've been through. Maybe another mom is feeling the same way and just needs some inspiration or so she doesn't feel alone. It is very isolating, and no matter how close your girlfriends are or your family, they don't get it.
Mm.
They're not the ones going through it. I just feel like it's really helpful to have someone who can remotely get what you're going through and understand.
I feel like there are a million different quotes that I could use from the past year on this podcast to reflect advocacy, empowerment, and community. And I would be remiss if I didn't share my own experience that has been really hard for us in the past couple of weeks. And I'm also really lucky that I get to say, like, Cameron is going to make a full recovery. But gosh, it's been 16 days. 16 days ago, I was just getting home from visiting an amazing pediatric rehab hospital in St. Louis. Rankin Jordan, shout out. Y'all are amazing. And just like high on life and literally feeling that crushing the mom thing, but also crushing what I love to do. And that's Child Life on Call. So when I got home late at night, I kissed the kids. And the next morning, I set my alarm to wake up before the kids did. I go through these ebbs and flows of some years. I swear I wake up every morning at 5 and I work out and it's incredible. But the past 6 to 9 months, I have been like sleeping in, and my kids have been the ones to come wake me up, or my husband at 6:45, and then we're like in go mode. But when I come back from a business trip and I haven't seen the kids, like I want to wake up ready to go, get myself ready. So this is kind of like that morning I was feeling good and on top of my stuff. So I get the kiddos, so happy to see them. And it had been a couple days and getting their snacks and lunch and all that good stuff. But the mornings are chaos, regardless of what you have going on. Like, if you're a parent, the mornings are just hard and you can plan as much as you want and know exactly what you need to do, and it's still difficult. So what happened was I was getting the kids breakfast, which rarely they eat. And my son actually asked for oatmeal. And I was like, yes, what a healthy choice. I brought, I got these like protein packet oatmeal. So he would have a little extra protein. And I'm like getting this or that for my daughter. So I put the oatmeal in the microwave, and we have one of those microwaves that's higher up. And I went to go get the microwave to get the bowl of oatmeal out of the microwave when it was done. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if I put it in for longer than normal or if the microwave malfunctioned, but the oatmeal, as soon as I touched it, I could see it boiling. And my bare hand touching the bowl, my initial gut reaction was just to drop it. And my daughter happened to be standing there. So the bowl of boiling oatmeal drops and splatters all over the right side of her face, her belly, and down her leg. And I'm literally in shock. She screams as loud as possible. My son starts crying and having a difficult time, as anyone would. And my first gut reaction is just to like grab a paper towel and like wipe the oatmeal off of her face. And as I'm wiping it off of her face, her skin is peeling off alongside of it. And then I realize it's on her clothes. So I'm like taking her clothes off. And so she's in the kitchen. It's cold. I'm wiping it off and I call my very good friend who is an ER nurse. And she's my call. She's my call. And I said, "Oh my gosh, can you please come over? I need you. I need you. I need you to come over." So she drops everything. She comes over. And in the meantime, I text my other friend who's an ER doctor. And I say, "Cameron has boiling oatmeal on her face. Send me a picture." Or she says, "Okay, send me a picture." So I send her a picture and the ER doctor friend, she immediately calls me and she's like, "Okay, I want you to take a deep breath. And then I want you to put Cameron in the car and take her to the Dell ER because they have wound care. Don't come to where I work. Go to Dell. They have the burn unit." And I hang up. And by that time, Kami is over, my friend, and she sees like a shivering child on my counter and immediately puts a blanket around her. And then I'm trying to console Wesley and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what is going on? So I grab Cameron's comfort item and an extra pair of clothes for her. She has a blanket around her and get her in the car. And then my neighbor takes my son to school. And the whole drive, I mean, immediately as my daughter gets in the car, she has this response and she just immediately falls asleep. And it's 7:15 in the morning. It's a raining morning. And I'm in the car and I could throw up in my lap. I could just throw up. And in my head, I'm thinking, she's burned. Like she's just going to be an adult, a human with a burn. But she can run and she can walk. And now I want to throw up again. And just all of those feelings. It takes an hour and 15 minutes to get from where I live to get to our hospital here in North Austin, Central Austin. So we get there. Thank God. I used to work there. I have beautiful friendships with some of the child life specialists who still work there. And they showed up so much so that they said, if you can't find parking, pull into the Circle Drive. We'll take your car. We'll go park. So I get my daughter out of the car. We're holding on to each other so tight. I really can't control my crying. I would love to tell you that I was like on top of it and fine, but I could not stop crying, which I know was scaring her, but was just, I couldn't control it. I was so sad and scared for her pain. So we got there, and I'm probably telling this story really slow. Sorry for that. But we got there and triage was incredible. Dell Children's took amazing care of us in the ER. They were so sweet. They helped Cameron identify her pain on the pain scale. We got into a room. We're seen by the resident or fellow, I can't remember which really quickly. And they got plastics on our case pretty soon after because it was on her face. And had a wonderful nurse who took incredible care of us. And the whole time, my sweet girl was just, words can't describe that kind of trust she had in me to make sure she was going to be okay. because she was really calm throughout the whole thing. And all I can really do is be so thankful for our bond and our relationship that even in the scariest day, the scariest time, she was calm. And I think it's because I was there with her and she trusted me. And I haven't really processed that yet. It's just kind of now coming to me when I think about how resilient she was throughout the process. But a lot of that has to do with her trust in me, which is the most profound, beautiful part of life than I could ever express. So we had to do some initial exams. She ended up getting some medicine intranasally to help her pain. And girlfriend colored the whole time. I mean, she wanted every craft they had in that ER. She wanted to color, and even after the medication had started to work, she wanted to find her way to get her crayon. She knew when a marker had fallen on the ground. And yeah, that was our experience. So very lucky for having that, world-class care and eyes on her from the beginning. And we were given instructions to put bacitracin on it and to put Aquaphor on it. And I thought, there is no way that she will heal, with just these two things. But lo and behold, the next couple of days, she continued to do better and it continued to get better. Of course, burns look way worse before they get better. They look really scary. And she had a hard time, seeing herself in the mirror. And I was in a lot of guilt mode for a long time. And she's been processing how it happened. And to be honest with you, I haven't done any child life interventions with her beyond reading a book because I haven't brought myself fully there yet to work through it. It's just a few weeks out still, 16 days. So slowly but surely it has healed because bodies are amazing and she's doing incredible. And my son has had people love on him and catch up and support him. And what has helped me the most since our accident is when other parents, my friends, look at me and say, this is what happened to us. This is the burn that happened to us. This happened to me when I was a kid. Those are single-handedly helping pull me out of the guilt and devastation that I feel for being the reason that she has this injury. So it even further explains the impact that sharing stories and community has. And I did want to share with you our personal story. And so that if somebody else has a burn or you mess up as a parent or you cause harm or there's these accidents, these freak accidents that just happen, they happen to all of us and none of us get away scot-free here in this life. I also feel so much gratitude that we had an injury that will heal and she can walk and talk and run and feel. And that is always just going to be gratitude that I feel from my line of work. So what a way to end 2023. And I just thank you for all the love and wishes and amazing books and resources that child life specialists on burn units have sent to us or shared with us, or medical mom friends that have reached out and said, that sounds hard. And I mean, for them and what they've gone through to acknowledge and support me just means that, we're all more than just our individuals and our family stories. We're in this life together. So, in complete gratitude for this year and all of you. Happy holidays. Thank you for loving on Child Life on Call and being there and being open to the wacky and crazy ideas that Katie Taylor has and welcoming me into your ears and your hospitals and talking about different parts of child life services and supporting parents. This has been an amazing year, and I'm so, so grateful to you. I will see you back in 2024. Thank you all so much for listening to Child Life on Call. If you head to our website, childlifeoncall.com, you're going to find all sorts of stuff there for parents, professionals, healthcare providers, child life specialists, no matter who you are. Actually, when you just go to our homepage, it'll help you direct to exactly where you need to go. On that, you'll find opportunities and PDUs for child life specialists. Parents, we've got a starter kit for you. And clinicians, we even have a clinician course, which teaches you how to be a confident and capable caregiver in pediatrics. We're so grateful that you're here. Please DM us on Instagram. And like I mentioned, when you rate and review this podcast, it helps other families be able to find us. So let's keep doing that. And I will see you again here next week.